The music industry is brutal. Some artists get released from their record label contract but use rejection as a fuel to prove everyone wrong. In this video, we'll look at 8 pop stars that were dropped by their label. Chappell Roan. Chappell Roan, now an absolute superstar, had a hard road in the music industry before she got her breakthrough last year. In 2015, she signed with Atlantic Records after catching their attention uploading her own music on YouTube under her birth name Katy Rose. She then released her first EP, School Nights, in 2017 that showcased her potential as an artist. However, despite her distinct sound, the label struggled to market her. They wanted something more mainstream, while Chappell leaned into her larger-than-life persona. After a few years of uncertainty, Atlantic dropped her from the label in August 2020, leaving her with no clear direction for her career. Instead of giving up, she took control of her artistry. She moved to Los Angeles, started writing music that truly reflected her personality, and adopted a theatrical, campy aesthetic inspired by drag culture. She built a loyal fan base by embracing her queer identity and releasing music independently, leading to the release of The Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess in 2023. Then her breakout single Good Luck Babe changed her career when it went viral, managing to peak at number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100. It revived interest in her music, and people started to revisit her album, which became one of the best-selling albums, now being certified platinum in the US. What was once seen as too weird became her greatest strength, and by the end of 2024, Chappell Roan became a superstar, selling out shows and winning awards, proving that getting dropped was the best thing that ever happened to her. Katy Perry. Before Katy Perry became one of the biggest pop stars of the 2010s, she was just another struggling artist trying to find her sound. She started her career as a gospel singer under the name Katy Hudson, releasing a Christian rock album in 2001. However, as the years went on, she reinvented herself as a pop artist and signed with Island Def Jam. Unfortunately, the label wasn't sure what to do with her, and after a few years of false starts, they dropped her. Still determined to make it, Katy eventually landed at Columbia Records, where she worked on an album that never saw the light of day. But Columbia shelved the project and dropped her in 2006, leaving her career in limbo once again. After years of frustration, she finally signed with Capitol Records, where she finally found her place. Then she released One of the Boys in 2008, and she got her breakthrough with huge hits like I Kissed a Girl and Hot and Cold. Of course, Katy's career skyrocketed even further with Teenage Dream in 2010, which spawned 5 #1 hits. A historical achievement. She became one of the defining pop stars of her era, proving that being dropped wasn't the end of her career, it was just a detour. While her later albums didn't reach the same heights, Katy's legacy as a pop icon remains untouchable. Her story serves as a reminder that sometimes rejection is a stepping stone to something greater. Lady Gaga. Before Lady Gaga became one of the biggest pop stars in the world, she went through a lot in the music industry. In 2006, she signed a deal with Def Jam, which at the time was home to major hip-hop and R&B acts like Rihanna and Jay-Z. The label, however, didn't seem to know what to do with her unique blend of theatrical performance and experimental pop. After just 3 months, the label dropped Gaga without even giving her a chance to release an album. This rejection crushed her, doubting whether she would ever make it in the music industry. But Gaga didn't give up. Instead, she hustled in New York's underground music scene, refining her image and sound. She eventually caught the attention of Akon, who helped her secure a deal with Interscope Records under his Con Life imprint. In 2008, she released The Fame, and the rest is history. The album spawned multiple #1 hits, including Just Dance and Poker Face, making her an overnight sensation. After years of grinding, she became one of the biggest names in pop music, selling over 100 million records worldwide. Tinashe. Tinashe was once seen as the next big R&B pop crossover star. After releasing a series of well-received mixtapes, she signed a deal with RCA Records and released her debut album Aquarius in 2014. The album was critically acclaimed and featured the triple platinum hit Too On, which peaked at number 24 on the Billboard Hot 100. It seemed like she was on her way to superstardom, but behind the scenes, things were falling apart. RCA had no clear direction for her career and constantly delayed her music. Her sophomore album Joyride was repeatedly pushed back, and when it finally dropped in 2018, the momentum she had built up was gone. By the time she was working on her third album, Songs for You, Tinashe had grown frustrated with the lack of label support. She later revealed that the label tried to mold her into something she wasn't, forcing her into a more mainstream pop sound. After years of label struggles, she finally parted ways with RCA in 2019, opting to go independent. While some saw this as a major setback, it allowed her to regain creative control of her music. Despite never reaching the commercial heights many expected, Tinashe remains a respected figure in music. Many fans still believe that if RCA had handled her career differently, she could have been one of the biggest stars in pop and R&B. The Jonas Brothers. Before becoming one of the biggest boy bands of the late 2000s, the Jonas Brothers were just another young pop rock group trying to make it in the music industry. In 2005, they signed with Columbia Records and began working on their debut album It's About Time, which was released in 2006. Despite a dedicated fan base and minor success, the album failed to take off commercially. Columbia showed little confidence in the group, barely promoting their music, and by early 2007, the label decided to drop them, believing they wouldn't be profitable. However, the setback turned out to be a blessing in disguise. Soon after being dropped, the Jonas Brothers were signed by Hollywood Records, a Disney-affiliated label that knew exactly how to market them. With the help of Disney Channel, they gained massive exposure through appearances on Hannah Montana and their own movie Camp Rock. Their self-titled second album, released in August 2007, debuted at number 5 on the Billboard 200 and was certified platinum. Over the next few years, they became one of the biggest teen pop acts in the world. The Jonas Brothers' story is a perfect example of how setbacks don't always mean the end of a career. In fact, being dropped by Columbia pushed them towards a much better fit, allowing them to dominate the late 2000s. Even taking a break and reuniting years later, they still found success with their 2019 album Happiness Begins, which debuted at number 1. Rita Ora. Rita Ora's music career is a textbook case of how labels can mishandle an artist's potential. She was initially signed to Jay-Z's Rock Nation in 2008, with the label positioning her as the UK's next big pop star. After years of development, she finally released her debut album Aura in 2012, which became a huge success in the UK, producing multiple #1 singles. However, despite her early success overseas, her career in the US never really took off. By 2014, she was still waiting to release her second album, but Rock Nation seemed more focused on other artists. She grew frustrated with the lack of support, and in 2015, she filed a lawsuit to be released from her contract, arguing that the label had abandoned her. Rock Nation countersued, leading to a legal battle that prevented her from releasing new music for years. In 2016, both parties finally reached a settlement, and Rita Ora was released from her contract. After leaving Rock Nation, she signed with Atlantic Records and finally released her long-awaited second album Phoenix in 2018, 6 years after her debut. While she never became a dominant force in the US market, she remained a consistent hitmaker in the UK. Despite label struggles, Rita Ora managed to carve out a successful career, but she could have been way bigger. Ciara. Ciara burst onto the music scene in 2004 with her debut album Goodies, which spawned multiple hit singles like 1-2 Step and Oh. She quickly became one of R&B's biggest rising stars, with her second album Ciara The Evolution in 2006 debuting at #1 on the Billboard 200. However, things started to go downhill when her third album Fantasy Ride failed to meet commercial expectations. The lead single Love Sex Magic performed well internationally, but the album's overall performance was disappointing. Her fourth album Basic Instinct in 2010 was a bigger disaster, with lackluster promotion and singles that failed to gain traction. The album only sold 37,000 copies in its first week. Ciara blamed her label Jive Records for mishandling her projects and publicly asked to be released from her contract. In 2011, she was finally dropped, marking a turning point in her career. Determined to regain her momentum, Ciara signed with Epic Records and saw a brief resurgence with her self-titled 2013 album, which produced the hit Body Party. However, her later album struggled to make an impact, and after Beauty Marks in 2019 underperformed, she parted ways with Epic. While she remained a respected artist in R&B, her commercial dominance never fully recovered. Bebe Rexha. Bebe Rexha's journey in the music industry has been marked by both success and challenges. After over a decade with Warner Records, reports from earlier this year indicate that Bebe and her label parted ways following a series of disagreements. Her journey in the music industry has been unique. Initially known as a hit-making songwriter, she scored a lot of hits in the 2010s, both as a featured artist and by herself, but she was never considered an album artist and never really built a dedicated fan base. Her debut album Expectations was finally released in 2018 and debuted on number 13 with 24,000 units sold in its first week, which was disappointing for such a big artist. After a quiet few years, in 2022, she collaborated with David Guetta on the track I'm Good, which became a huge hit and brought her back to the top of the charts. Despite these achievements, tensions between Bebe and Warner Records escalated, leading to their eventual split. After she publicly slandered the label. Following the separation, Bebe was removed from Warner's website, indicating a definitive end to her time with the label. We will have to see where her career goes from here. Which pop stars that were dropped from their label did I miss? Tell me in the comments below.